All right, welcome back for a review of a classic 1956 film. I worked my way through this weekend, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. 1956 stars great actor Kevin McCarthy and Dana Winter, who play these two people that are living in the idyllic utopian suburban town of Santa Mira. Santa Mira has been invaded by these pod creatures that kill off the host and replace the host, replicate the host with this automaton, mindless, emotionless person that replaces the host. Of course, the film has been labeled with attributed with a lot of metaphorical type imagery and things like that. It is hard to watch this and not attribute some of those metaphors like anti-communism or anti-McCarthyism. Certainly when the film took place, those things were prevalent. But I actually think the film is more about our need for conformity. And the more that people try to keep up with the Joneses and look more and more like what society would readily accept, successful, two-car garage, etc., etc. As you climb the ladders of social norms, ultimately that leads to conformity and uniformity and not a whole lot of uniqueness within a society. And that's what you got here as the pod people take over human beings, they become same. I mean, there's really nothing that distinguishes one person from the other. I also think it's interesting that your two lead characters in this are the antithesis of what was going on in that society at the time, which was suburban family, married, mother, father, two kids, garage, car, etc. Here you've got two divorcees with no children, and they're professionals. They're both professionals. So even the two main characters are kind of against the odds of conformity in society. So I that's kind of my lean towards it. Now, in an interview segment from 1985 with Kevin McCarthy, he said, a lot of these labels that people put on the movie are not. It was a horror movie. I don't think it was anything more than that. But it is really hard to watch this and not see a multitude of metaphors in it. It was written by a guy named Jack Finney, and the original title was called A Fall of Small Frogs. Strange title. And then it was changed to The Body Snatchers, but unfortunately the production folks didn't want to piggyback the title of the 1945 Boris Karloff Bela Lugosi film, so they changed it. So they had a hard time with the titles. I mean, they never could really come to terms with Invasion of the Body Snatchers till the very end. One of the titles that was thrown out was Don't Sleep Now, something like that. I think that's interesting, but ultimately they ended up just going back to the Body Snatchers and then throwing Invasion on it. A lot of great special features on this. There's a 20-minute look at the producer, Walter Wanger, who's an interesting character himself. He ended up getting embroiled in a lot of communist accusations, and he was kind of he was on the target list for a number of reasons. As you listen to his story, he had success and failure, and ultimately ended up going to jail for trying to kill his wife's lover. Shot him in the groin. So he's an interesting character. Great 20-minute overview of Walter Wanger. There's two audio commentaries, one with Troy Howarth and then another with Kevin McCarthy, which is fantastic. And then a whole slew of just these little featurettes, 10 to 15-minute featurettes. Joe Dante's in this, John Landis is in this. A lot of people giving their thoughts and input into this great classic science fiction film. It was made for like $350,000, which is, I guess, it was a lot back then, but pretty budget film overall. There's also shooting locations where they go back and look at the shooting locations, although it's not as good as the Horror Hound shooting location. I wish that they'd have done it like the Horror Hound, but they didn't. But yeah, just a whole host of special features in this thing. Great print quality. I mean, this is really, I think, a must-own in people's libraries right now as far as horror film, science fiction film. It's as much a horror film as it is a science fiction film in a lot of ways. You could argue that. Nice little insert booklet that covers the film and the psychological aspects of the film. But yeah, this is more than a pleasant surprise. This is a fantastic release from Olive. I wish Olive did more. They tend to not release much. When they do, it's fantastic stuff. So highly recommend this release. And yeah, I mean, if you don't have it, your collection deserves to have that in there. It's a great one. Thanks for watching.